Caballero, the holidays are already here, and us Latinos like to wait until the last minute to find the perfect holiday gift. But why not get the perfect gift early? Claro, I'm talking about the perfect jean. I've been gushing about the perfect jean for years. The stretch and comfort are unmatched. And they just released a new premium 99% cotton version of their jeans. They got that old school jeans look con un poquito de stretch for that perfect jean comfort we love. Think classic meets comfort that's a bit more breathable. Our favorite combo. But it's not just their jeans that are perfect. I'm also tremendo fan of their perfect tees. Made with 95% cotton and 5% spandex, these tees are durable, but more importantly, hug you in the right places to make you look and feel great. Hell, it turns a dad bod like mine into a sexy poppy bod. And it wouldn't be a perfect jean spot without a discount. Use code PERO20 for 20% off your first order at theperfectjean.nyc. Así que don't wait until the last minute. Get the perfect gift with the perfect jean today. And don't forget to use code PERO20 for 20% off your first order.
Christmas is here, the time of year we start baking for family and friends. So many recipes out there call for water, but substituting milk makes a much richer tasting treat. O sea, nobody leaves Santa Claus water in cookies. It's not just baked goods either. From hot chocolate, flan, or coquito, so many holiday treats are irresistible because of dairy. This holiday season, find the perfect recipe by visiting floridamilk.com or lechedeflorida.com. Feliz Navidad from your Florida dairy farmers, and pero let me tell you. This is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is
Season 6 of Pero Let Me Tell You. All right, mi gente. Now, you know, over the course of 6 seasons, you know we love to eat on this show. And if there's one thing that I love, it is chocolate. So, of course, a couple months back, when I first had my first bar of Chuao chocolate, it was a s'mores bar. I was like, this is insanely delicious. And then when I read up on the company and found out that it was owned by a Venezuelan, well, I mean, then we had to have him on the show. So with that said, thank you so much for joining us today, Chef Michael Antonorsi. And I love your title because you're one of the founders of the company, but you are the Chief Joy Activator. That is probably my favorite title I've ever seen, ever. And so accurate. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Well, thank you for having me. And yes, that's because as a company, you know, a while ago, we decided that we're not going to have a mission or a vision or anything like that. We have an intention, which is to share joy with the world through deliciously engaging chocolate experiences. But then to share joy, you have to have it in you to be able to share it, right? So we like the chocolate kind of triggers it in you, so then you can share it. So I'm in charge of kind of triggering the joy inside here and outside. So,
well, there are worse things to be in charge of than triggering joy. I got to tell you, you know, offhand. And with flavors, like I said earlier, you know, I had the s'mores bar, I've had the sea salt and chipotle, I've had the potato chip, the popping candy. Like these flavors, I mean, if you're not feeling joy when you have them, then I mean, I got to say, the problem is not your chocolate, it is the person having it, because these are some joyful flavors.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So I wanted to take a step back. You know, as I mentioned, you know, you're from Venezuela. You know, you grew up actually with a German mother, which I think is such a fascinating, you know, combination. You know, German mom in Venezuela. What was that like? You know, growing up with that hybrid, shall we say?
Well, that was like having to be home by midnight when all your friends are partying out until 5 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, when you apply the more like the German rule of behavior, there's a lot of restrictions there. And then as the boys, of course, go wild. And, you know, even when I was growing up, and I'll be at my cousin's house, you know, my mother, when we were very little, she'll have us all ready to go to bed at 6:30, 7 p.m. or something because we were small.
Wow.
And then all our cousins were still, you know, running around till 1 in the morning. So, you know, it was always like that. But it was fun because, you know, she slowly, of course, started adapting to the Venezuelan vibe and relaxing. But it does give me a lot of discipline and a lot of, you know, perspective in terms of how things should be. And then kind of balancing it out with my dad, who was from Venezuela, of course, a little bit more relaxed and going with the flow and celebrational in many ways.
Yeah, a little more Latino as opposed to
Yeah,
your mom.
absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess on the other side of things, though, obviously with a German mother, I mean, when you think of Germany, chocolate is like at the forefront. Was chocolate just a big part of your life growing up? More so than the average kid, shall we say?
Well, mostly it was the cooking, because my mother was a very good cook, and she would be making all kinds of course, a lot of German influence cooking and everything like that. And she wasn't really good at making the arepas, so she would do all the, she'd do a strudel, and she would do all kinds of other things that would be very fascinating and great. And I was really in love with the cooking. I always wanted to cook, but I wasn't able to really go straight into cooking because, of course, I had to prove myself in so many ways, and having very strict parents, I figure I got to really get their respect and their appreciation. So I went ahead and I graduated from high school very young at 16. And then I went to the United States, and then I continued with the next best thing, which was studying biomedical engineering. Because I figure if I do the hardest thing, I can also do the easy things. So, and it was more like, very much ego-driven, of course, kind of like a mouthful. You tell a girl, hey, I'm a biomedical engineer, you would think that you would impress her. So I did all that. And then, of course, after that, I came back to Venezuela when I was 21, and I did an MBA. I did all these things, and then I started in the computer networking and technology business with my brother, and we did that for 14 years. But inside of me, all what I was longing for was to cook. So, but I wasn't able to tell my dad once I finished biomedical engineering to say, hey, now I'm ready to go to Germany and start peeling potatoes. Because now maybe in a retrospective, if I would have told him, he would have said yes. But I never gave him the chance. So I actually just continued this rat race until I was able to kind of eventually afford myself my passion. And then when after 14 years working in telecom and everything, and computer networking, I was able to grab my wife and my 2 children then, and then I went to Paris and I became a chef.
Yep.
And then after that, I also specialized in chocolate and pastry making. And then once that finished in 2001, we figured, okay, what do we do next? So California was in our heart because I went to school in UCSD. And we came here and started. And in 2002, we opened up the chocolate shop. And we started to venture into more like a low-tech business, in terms of traditional. And started doing chocolates ever since. And now we are 21 years old.
That is an amazing story. I mean, there's so much I want to unpack. First of all, the fact that you have a background in biomedical engineering. You may be the smartest guest we've ever had for starters. And I love though that you were like, well, that's like the most difficult thing. And then you decided like, no, now I'm going to be in charge of generating joy, which I think might be the only other thing more difficult, right? That if you really stop and think about it, than biomedical engineering, right? Like it's.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. I thought more it was like finally I was able to express myself in what was natural in me, and stop running after trying to get that appreciation, more ego-driven type of appreciation. But you put a good point, but at the end, I think, when authentic joy is expressed, it's a very contagious thing. Mm-hmm. So, and I feel that if it is authentic, if it is really a way of being, and you're experiencing a beautiful, joy is actually a moment that you can't wait to share with others.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like pleasure, which is only for you, but when you have joy, you just immediately have to go and get active on it. So then, and that has been kind of like what I have done all my life, not professionally, but I figured finally I could line up both. And then with chocolate, of course, being the food of the gods, it's so easy as a platform, maybe generating or joy with other people, by working in a tuna factory, or so maybe you can, or maybe fish flour or something.
Yeah, not that many people are gonna, I mean, I guess it could happen, but chocolate's a little easier to generate joy than tuna. Yeah. I'm gonna go with that one.
And maybe because I came from computer networking background, there was very little joy there, because every time you get a call, it was the network is down. And everybody was upset. So
that is true. You probably were on the receiving end of the opposite of joy many times. Yeah. Yes. One of the things that I absolutely adore about your story is, it's you went off and you kind of did what you expected, right, for your parents, like to make your parents happy. You came back, you kept doing it. Then in your 30s, I think it was, you said to your family, like, guess what? We're going to Paris, and we're, because I'm going to go study, chocolate making and food and all of that. What I love about that is, so many times people think, well, yeah, se me pasó. You know, I got married, I have kids. Yeah, I have the responsibility. I can't do these things anymore. And, you know, to certain degrees that could be true, right? But you're proof that there's always a chance to go and continue and do something new. I mean, you know, your 30s, most people would be like, well, yeah, that's it. You're set on your way. You got to just kind of keep going until, you know, the kids are out of school or at least, right? But you went a whole other route. I love that part of the story.
Yeah, in general, you know, I think we could fall trap of our mind that is generating thoughts of fear, of insecurity, of all that stuff. And the only way to override the mind is through the heart. So if you have the passion and it's something you really wanted to do, even though it's going full on against the fear monger of your mind, you can. That's the only way to do it. You know, you can't really. It's very hard to switch careers from mindset to mindset, unless you're like looking for mind objectives like you know, recognition or money or things like that.
Right.
But if you go from like, you know, something that's burning inside that you cannot not do, and then you go like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this, and that's it. And then everything helps you. Everything lines up with you. It's just that little decision is what's so difficult. Once you make it, everything starts lining up. You know, even, you know, the most difficult or complex tasks like moving your family, uprooting, you know, doing all these things that in your daily routine of comfort, you would imagine like, no, that's too much. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, when you make the decision, when you do that little click, everything starts lining up, and everything that seemed to be impossible start being possible. And then you just do things, and then you land in a new place, which is exciting, and it's a new place that opens you up to opportunities. And then usually, if it's closer to who you are, closer to your heart, it's, you know, work is not going to feel like work. It's going to feel like fun, like play.
I mean, it's funny because it sounds so simple, right, to say it out loud. You know, and obviously there's a lot of, you know, I almost want to ask you, like, on a scale from 1 to 10, in that moment when you made that decision, how scared were you, right? Because I think sometimes people may look at you and say, well, of course you're saying that now, you know, you've been so successful, but I'm assuming in that moment you also had your worries. I mean, you're human.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think the way I did it was transitional, right? So I did a sabbatical. I went to study and retool. So, you know, you kind of pack it into like 1 or 2 years that you can foresee, you know, when you know, divide and conquer, right? You divide the problem into just like 1 or 2 years. You say, okay, I'm going to go full on with family and all, to get a European experience or whatever experience that you're looking for. And then you dive into it. And then that gives you enough separation from your routine, and then enough exposure to the new things that start creating a new mindset that you say, okay, now I can just only do this. And then that makes it easier for you to let go of what you were doing before, because you have been separated for a while and you have been so immersed into something that's so much more in line with what you want to do and fascinated about every day. So then you grab that, and then you just have to kind of finish letting go on the first part, and then you are all energy to go move forward into the next thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes total sense. It's one of those things where it's like you can't just jump off a cliff, you know, without trying to prepare for it a little bit, you know. Otherwise it's very dangerous. It can be very, very dangerous. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you, you know, you started this company in 2002 with your brother Richard. On the face of it, right? Like, why chocolate? And I say this because so many people might look at you and say, you know, there's so many people doing chocolate. I mean, let's not even talk about the smaller businesses, right? But, you know, you've got your Mars, your Hershey's, your Nestle, and, you know, what was it that you said, no, I can do this, and this is what I love, and this is what we're going to move forward with?
A little foolishness, I guess.
Isn't that always the way, though?
You know, there was a combination of factors. First, you know, I retooled as a French chef. I specialize in pastry and chocolate making. And I come from Venezuela. Venezuela produces the finest cacao in the world.
Yes.
And Chuao, actually, the name of the company, Chuao, it's a cacao growing region in Venezuela, and it produces one of the finest cacaos. So we chose the name, again, very spontaneously, as in reference to our high quality product that we want to develop. And we also wanted to kind of eventually do a full circle with the plantation, which, you know, due to the situation in Venezuela, it has not been possible.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But so we grabbed that and we started doing, and we realized that the scene of chocolate 22 years ago was very boring, very simple. And I'm coming here with all these ideas of creation and doing new things. And we started. Now we made so many mistakes. You know, we chose we created so many names and things and experiences that are so foreign for the American public. So the naming, starting with the company naming as Chuao, it's very difficult. We've been called Cho, Chi, Chihuahua, all kinds of Chi names. Was already a thing that you could imagine, well, we should have thought about it a little bit deeper. But, when you're an entrepreneur, you're so full of yourself, so much into your passion and what you're going to do, that you forget that you need to connect with other people. And that is the reason why we lost money for 9 years. So,
Oh, wow.
because we came in, we wanted to do things, and we were so full of ourselves. And this is what I call the entrepreneurial myopia, because you are so much. This is the best product. Everybody should understand it. But then people don't. People are used to something else. So our first tagline was unusual, unexpected, and delicious, because I wanted to do unusual flavors and unexpected and kind of arouse. And then all of a sudden I realized that American public does not appreciate unusual, and it does not appreciate unexpected. It likes familiar.
Yeah.
Now, delicious, of course, all day long, right? So then it started changing, and then we started with another tagline called arousing your senses with deliciously engaging chocolate experiences. And then arousal was another learning, because it's attached to more of a sexual arousal.
Yeah.
For me, it was more about being alive, about feeling goosebumps when you're eating chocolate and seeing what's happening in your mouth and all that stuff. So again, learning, until I realized that we need to do something that is special and unique, but has familiar ingredients. And then we started evolving into potato chip chocolate bar, the s'mores bar, some of them. The firecracker bar is still one of our more iconic and unusual, or maybe even unexpected ones, but that one I protect because that one is really a very special moment that people can have, and that will definitely trigger joy to be shared. So we learned a lot in this process, and because we were just so much about doing what we wanted to do. So we didn't do a market research. We didn't come here with financing. And, okay, we're going to create it from A to B, and then we sell it at C, and then we're done.
Right.
And build it and sell it. We was more like really the labor of sharing and passion and creation and creation and creation. And we did very many mistakes that we have been correcting through the years. And we kind of evolved as a child. We first were a toddler, a little bit learning everything and doing whatever. And then we kind of started growing. And then when we were like 15, 16 years old, we got really, really cocky, really narcissistic, and egocentric. And we thought that, we would sell our product everywhere and we were the best, unstoppable. And then, of course, we didn't even want economic principles like the price elasticity principle to even apply to us. We thought we were like the arrogance of a teenager, and then of course life comes, and then it also go down again. And now we're 21. Now we're mature. Now we are like, okay, we're going to grow where we belong. We can drink. We can drink responsibly. We can, we don't have to be so crazy. So kind of like the same as our lives. A company kind of goes through those processes, but in many ways, it was all of it was a fruit of passion. It was just doing things that we wanted to. And that's the only way that you can do so many things, because in your 30s, normally that's when you do things. That's when you create a family, build a home, build a business or something. It all happens at the same time. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to do it now. But then, but that has to be fueled by something that you just don't even know where it comes from.
Yeah, I mean, I would counter that and say I think you could do it now, sir. I think there's a fire in you just as I'm talking to you that makes me believe you could probably do any damn thing you set your mind to.
Okay.
But it's so fascinating to me that you the thing you brought up. I think you said was small business myopia. Entrepreneur myopia. It's so funny because my background is marketing, and I actually think that happens not just under entrepreneurs. I think it even happens at larger companies. I've always said whenever these large companies have their marketing departments in-house, like, they don't use external agencies for creative and media and all of that, you run into those things too. Because your brand so well, you can't understand how other people don't understand your brand, right? And so exactly. Yeah. You need that external kind of voice at some point. It's not always right, because sometimes the external voice is going to tell you things that you're like, but that's not my brand. Like, I know what you're saying, but I can't change this because that's not my brand. But it gives you that perspective that I think sometimes we lose, because we're like, it's funny you said, arousing the senses. It's like, well, I know what I mean, right? But there's that whole other connotation, right? Which unfortunately, I mean, hey, listen, chocolate is sexy, so it's not the worst thing to associate with. You know.
No, it was pun intended there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really completely absent of mind. It has its things, its sensuality.
Yep.
You get it, the way it melts in your mouth, everything. It's just the most sexy thing in the world, and it arouses your senses.
Yep.
But then again, you're trying to bring it down to something more universally approvable.
Right. Yeah. You want to get the what is it, the crowd from like 9 to 90, right? And so yeah, you want to go that route. You mentioned U.S. audiences, and you are based out here in the U.S. Your product is made in the U.S. What I also really am proud of you guys is that everything is responsibly sourced. That's something that you guys take pride in. Can you give us a little bit of background? How that came about and what that means for Chuao, in terms of responsibly sourced materials, which I think is absolutely great.
Yeah, when we started, we started really from the palate in, and looking at textures and things that we can express and that we can share. And as we started growing, we started paying attention to, okay, so what do we do here? Now, we are not bean to bar, so we don't really go all the way down to the plantation per se. But we have factories that make the blends that we use proprietary for us.
Oh.
And so we say, okay, the way we can access to more responsibility in terms of the sourcing is through fair trade. So all our chocolate is fair trade. And then so that we make sure that is and it's non-GMO and all those things, right? We had an organic line. We were going into organic, but some of our ingredients that are very exciting are impossible to find organic. Even Venezuelan cacao is almost impossible to find organic.
Really?
So there's some limitations that kind of hinder you to put the full labor. But every time we can find organic ingredients, we try to use them. But in general, the bulk of things, which is chocolate, is all fair trade. And then the packaging, it's previously recycled in a way as much as we can within the packaging. So that there's a little sacrifice there, because in the past, when at the beginning of the packaging, when it was new, it was all white and glistering and beautiful and shimmering. And now it's a little bit more dull, because it's the consequence of putting in recycled material, so that there is. But in a way, if it is at 15, 20%, whatever it is, there's always a little chunk that you can actually reuse, and instead of always kind of going into the new things, right? Yeah. And the rest, we do obey all kinds of recycling practices here in the factory. So we try to be as respectful as we can. We don't have too many ingredients, and so we make sure that they're always fair trade. And fair trade is important because it is the respect to the chain of production. So you are treating with respect the source of the chocolate. So that for us is important,
Yeah, I mean, I will challenge you. You said the packaging now is a little dull. I will say it is matte and it is standing out, because it is. I mean, I'm more a fan of like matte finishes, if you will. So for me, it's something that just stands out, and it just looks. Again, I think it feeds back into what we're just talking about, right? Like organic, fair trade, sustainable. It doesn't look like something that quote unquote came out of a factory, right? Mass produced per se. I mean, obviously, I know there's not just one person making each bar by hand, but there's. I think it lends itself to communicating what Chuao is about, and really that starts with the wrapping. That starts with the packaging of any product, I think.
Right. Yeah. No, you're really good at marketing, I have to say. Yes, there's a matte finish there too.
But you mentioned the palate. Now, I have to say, you guys have some of the most fascinatingly delicious flavors out there right now. I mean, I'm just going to start with what I consider to be the more basic, which is the potato chip, right? Because how many times have we not, growing up as kids, eaten like potato chips with chocolate, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
You guys made it happen, like for real, it really happened. S'mores is one of my favorite things in the world. My parents have a cabin in North Carolina. Whenever I go up there in the winter, I make the fireplace and I make s'mores. Y'all made s'mores chocolate bar. Like I love all of this. I have two questions, which is number one, how do you guys come up with the flavors, right? Because as you mentioned, US consumers sometimes don't want different until they have it, right? I think that's the key. They don't want different until they have it, they love it, and then they can't get enough of it. And my second question is, how can I get a job helping you guys taste test all of these flavors? Ultimately, that's just the long con here of this interview is just to find out how I can eat your chocolate and help you guys come up with new flavors.
Okay, so the first one. Well, actually, the one that develops all the products and flavors is me. This is the way. This is my playground. So this is where when I studied culinary arts, it's all about sensory experiences. It's all about what's happening. It's not about just filling your stomach quickly and going. So when we do we're limited to the little chocolate bars. So we do have bonbon and truffles also, but they're more delicate and harder to have in distribution and just ship direct to consumers. But they're delicious too. That's how we started actually with them, and then we moved into more bars. But then within the limitation of the bar, I want to experience a multi-layered sensory experience as much as I can. So for instance, not just the potato chip and chocolate. Yeah, and every time I go to the cinema, I would have some potato chips, and then I get over salty in my mouth, and then I have some sweet, maybe chocolate, and then I get too sweet, and I go salty. So I wanted to put that together, and again, it's a process of time. When you take a piece of that chocolate, and you have to eat it slowly, you kind of consume it all. First, you're going to have a front of chocolate because it's the most percentage of it. And then once you continue, if you continue, tasting it, and you finally have kind of cleared out all the chocolate in your mouth, you're left with a little piece of potato chip. As you grind them, in your teeth, you start getting the aroma of potato chip. Now, if you would be in a rush and you grab one piece and you eat it and you kind of half swallowed and you put another piece in your mouth, you'll always be in the front of the chocolate with some crunchy, salty something. But you will never get the nuances of the potato, right? So that's you have to finish the whole experience, maybe a minute or so until you can go for the next bite. So this is kind of like how most of our chocolates are. So you can actually really discern the different layers of it, right? Otherwise, it's just real quick crunch, salty, sweet, too basic. And the s'mores one also has an interesting anecdote because I'm from Venezuela. We don't eat s'mores.
Right, yeah.
The closest thing we have gotten is to roast some marshmallows in a fireplace, right? And eat the marshmallow. So as we were getting more into more familiar experiences for Americans, I had a branding director here that was started this kind of guerrilla campaign for s'mores. He started posting all kinds of posters in all the walls of the office. America needs s'mores, and then like photos of fireplaces and people doing s'mores. And I was like, oh, but I don't know how to do s'mores. It's not me. I don't eat s'mores.
Right.
It's not part of my culture. And then, but he just continued. And then I said, okay. And then I realized that I had these little marshmallows that I can actually put on top. And this is when we started complicating our production because in the past, everything was inside the chocolate. And now we started putting stuff on top. So because I couldn't put the marshmallow inside,
right.
But I could put it on top. So I said, okay, we're going to make a s'mores bar with the marshmallows on top. And then we created that, and well, he proved right because he became the #1 selling bar we have. So, with that, then came the Rocky Road, which has also almonds and marshmallows, and then we have a pretzel. We put pretzels on top. So we have the factory people putting stuff on top and by hand, and of course complicates production speed, but it gives the opportunity for multi-texture experiences.
Right. Yeah, I definitely want to thank that person who came up with the s'mores because that was the first bar of y'all's that I had. And listening to you describe how one should eat, a Chuao bar, I agree 1,000% because that's actually, it's funny because that's how I ate it. Like that I remember that first experience. I was at a movie theater and I remember breaking it apart, having the one and just like not even, I wouldn't even say I ate them. I would say like I savored it. Right. It was,
yeah, that's how to do it. Yeah.
It was just that like, let me let this kind of just wash over me and sit on my tongue and just enjoy all these flavors that I've never really had in a chocolate bar before. And ever since, every time I've had other flavors, I've been doing the same thing. So it's rewarding to me to hear I'm doing it right. From the founder of the company. So thank you for proving me right in how I eat your chocolate.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's actually, like, for instance, I don't know if you have had the firecracker one.
I have not.
Okay, so once you have the firecracker one, and you can send me your address, I'll send you some. So the firecracker bar is the most iconic one that has to be savored like that because it has to be experienced, not consumed. So you have to put a piece in your mouth, and then you just bite it only once, and then kind of like to crack it in half, and then you press it with your tongue against the palate, and then you kind of like rub it and wait and rub it and wait and let it melt, and things start happening. And you got to pay attention. If you want to augment the experience, you can close your eyes and your ears, and then it starts really going on, right? So that is my favorite experience, because it's an experience that you cannot control. Right. It's an experience that's going to go on its own rhythm, and you just have to accept it, right? And now, if you eat it and you press on it, you eat it and you bite and you chew on it, and then you're just going to crush all the, because that one has carbonated sugar crystals, so they start popping. And if you start crunching with your teeth, you just crunch them, and then you miss out on the spontaneous pop. So that one is specifically for like almost like a chocolate meditation, where you just put one piece in your mouth, you close your eyes, your ears, and you just let it kind of go, and you move it with your tongue. You can, the more you press, the louder the experience, and then it goes slow, and then you press again, and then the loud, so you can really control a little bit of that volume. But this is the best experiential chocolate that we have.
That is fantastic, and I will say, listeners, I know this is an audio podcast, but I'm speaking with Michael. I see him in person. When he is speaking about these experiences, when he is speaking about, the different flavors, there is, I will say, sir, there's a reason that you're the Chief Joy Activator, because there is a just happiness on your face when you are speaking about your product that, honestly, seeing it on your face and having experienced your chocolate, I get it. It translates. Like, there is, it sounds so cheesy to say, right? But it's like, I was eating that joy. There's no other way to put it. It sounds horribly corny, but I think it's just the truth. Watching you talk about it, I know why your chocolate tastes so damn good, because you put yourself into it, and it's so obvious to me. Just talking and watching you.
Well, it's been a journey of fun. Honestly, there's all sorts of ups and downs, but the creation of chocolate is where all the fun is, right? So we have created the last bar what we created was a carrot cake bar.
Ooh.
And that one is also another experience that it's amazing, and it's part of the things that happen that I don't even know how it happens.
I'm still processing it.
We created.
Wow.
So we created the last two bars I created one of them was Golden Goodness. The Golden Goodness is with this white chocolate that has caramelized sugar in it, so it tastes like dulce de leche. So on its own, right? So it tastes like dulce de leche, but it was a little bit too sweet. So I thought, what do I do with this? So then I realized I can put cacao nibs inside, which is a tiny little piece of cacao inside, a little Himalayan sea salt, and that chocolate bar is amazing. And it won Best White and Milk Chocolate Bar in 2020. Just when COVID hit in the Fancy Food Show, which is the largest food association in the United States. And so it got Best White and Milk Chocolate Bar, and it's a white chocolate bar. And that one is an amazing bar because it is like a deconstructed milk chocolate. So you eat it, and then you have first a front of dulce de leche, kind of very milky, sweet caramel. And then when you hit the cacao nibs, they explode into this deep, rich, dark cacao chocolate kind of a intensity. So you have that kind of mood swing with it. And then, and so it's one of those bars that you eat a little piece and okay, enough. And then a minute later, you have to have another piece and then another piece. It's just can't stop. Right?
But that's so important, because it's funny. One of my biggest complaints about dulce de leche is always that it's too empalagante. If you can't have too much of it at a time. So you crack the code.
Yeah, this one because it has a little sea salt and it has the cacao nibs that take you into a complete different direction. So, I always say that if you wrap that bar and you grind it, you will have milk chocolate. But that's just milk chocolate. But here you have all the components lined up in sequence, so it's amazing. But then I had that white chocolate, and one day in the next year, we put in the social media just as a April Fool's Day. We put a thing saying we created a 24-carat gold bar, right? And everybody, oh my God, and put a carrot on top and everything. It's like, oh, that's great. And then I'm like, oh, shoot, what do we do now? Everybody wants carrot. So then I realized, and then because I had this white chocolate, I said, I'm going to make a carrot cake. That's very American. Everybody loves carrot cake.
It's one of my favorites.
So I grabbed the caramely kind of white chocolate and then added all the ingredients of the carrot cake. I added this organic carrot powder, and then I added walnuts and things like that. And in all honesty, if you put a piece of that chocolate in your mouth, right after you have finished it, if you blow through your nose, you just had a piece of carrot cake. So it's a gluten-free carrot cake, and because it doesn't have any gluten, it's just chocolate. I just joke about it that it's gluten-free, but it gives you And something happened which I did not forcefully or intentionally create, which was one of the favorite parts of a carrot cake, which is the frosting.
Yes.
And the cream cheese frosting came out on its own due to the combination of the acidity of the carrot and the white chocolate. Somehow creates this reaction that when you eat this chocolate bar at the end, you have eaten a carrot cake with cream cheese frosting. So that one won Best Candy Bar in 2022, last year. Now those are white chocolate bars, which we do less of, but it's available online. And so those were the two last creations. And for me, that's like really the summary of what I like to do is to take you to a place where you eat something, but you finish up the picture in your head and you have an experience of your own the way you have always had it. So this is just a trigger to your experience. And with the carrot cake, it's just incredible.
Well, I gotta say, you're definitely doing that because, like, I haven't even had the carrot cake one, and already, like, my mind is envisioning it. Like, legit, carrot cake is one of my favorite things in the world. Like, if it's on a menu after dinner, that's what I'm having, and I'm very critical of carrot cake too. So I'm very excited to try your
I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your feedback on that one. Once you get it, I'm gonna send that to you too.
Oh my goodness! See, I was gonna go to the gym after this interview, but I think I'm just gonna go now and grab a couple bars of your chocolate, and I mean, look, I can lift it to my mouth. That's like a curl, right? Like a bicep curl.
It is.
Yeah, it's absolutely. All right. Well, Chef Michael, thank you again so much for stopping by, and chatting with us. You know. One of the things we love to do is always spotlight, Latino success stories, and I think that's definitely the case with you. You're doing something that you love, and I think, I said it earlier, the fact that you pivoted this after what many people would consider like, a certain point in your life, right, where you should just be like, no, head down, keep going, and you've managed to just do what you love, and you're bringing joy not only to others but for yourself, which is so important. And I think people don't stop to realize it. That is awesome. Like, I applaud you and I celebrate you and I thank you, for doing that, because whether you know it or not, aside from being the Chief Joy Activator and doing a great job of that, you're also kind of setting an example for people like myself. I'm in my 40s and we have a side hustle. We do chicken wings where we've come up with our own recipes. And it's people like yourself who make that pivot, after you're supposed to be down a path, right? That are a great role model for me, because it's like, no, it can be done. It can happen. And I just want to say thank you for that in and of itself.
Oh, very welcome. Very welcome. You're too kind.
Yeah. So you heard it here, everybody. There's so many flavors out there of Chuao. You can go on their website. You can find them out in the stores. Again, I've actually been having you every time I go to the movies here in Miami. And there's no reason for y'all not to have it. And honestly, who couldn't use a little more joy in their life? And that's something that we're definitely getting. So, Chef Michael, thank you again for stopping by and for just putting that delicious chocolate into the world.
Well, thank you so much, actually. It was so much fun to chat with you and share the stories. I hope that everybody gets a chance to grab them and the holidays and share them with their loved ones. Because
what better time? What better time than the holidays to share chocolate? Yeah. I mean, guys, it's like tailor-made. I'm pretty sure Chef Michael had something to do with the holidays and chocolate too. I don't know. I'm going to do a little more investigating on that one, but I think he's culprit of that association as well.
Yeah, we have a pumpkin spice s'mores bar too, so for the holidays, which is good.
Pero, señor, es que, I mean, there is no end to the joy you are generating, sir. Like, at what point will you stop having so much happiness? But again, thank you so much, man. It's been great.
Absolutely. Thank you for everything. You have a good day.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.
Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.